James Gunn's Superman is one of the first movies in his new DC cinematic universe. This time around, we are following David Cornsweet as Superman early in his career, when out of nowhere, Lex Luthor cooks up a scheme to ruin the reputation of the Man of Steel, making Superman now wonder if he is the man of hope he always thought he was. And that's all pretty much said. Like any spoilers, you guys, this will be a spoiler-free review. I can't believe I'm reviewing Superman now. It felt like it was just yesterday, 2 years ago, where we got the announcement of the movie being rebooted, David Cornsweet as Superman getting announced, getting that first look photo of the suit, set photos, the trailer, all of it has been a journey. And James Gunn's Superman was my most anticipated movie of this year. I've mentioned on the channel already, I'm not even the biggest Superman guy. I didn't exactly find the character all that interesting growing up, but for some reason, with the build up to this movie, I just found myself more and more looking forward to a new iteration of Superman on screen. So it was only just a huge cherry on top when I got invited to the red carpet world premiere, which I do want to disclose off top. Not because I'm paid by a studio or have some sort of agreement with Warner Brothers. That is not true at all, but I am aware being in that environment, you get on a high. I get excited. Like, come on, I'm just a dork who turned on a camera, does cringy things, and because of you guys who watch, I'm able to do something cool like that. Of course it's gonna put me in a really good mood to see a movie I was already really excited for, but it does not set my review in stone and already determine, oh, I'm gonna love the film. No. That's part of the reason why I did an out of theater reaction, is to kind of get that off my chest, that excitement, that feeling of hype from getting to do something that I think is like a bucket list item, but now I've sat with the movie, I've thought about it for a couple of hours, and I'm gonna be really honest on what I thought worked in this movie and what I thought didn't work all that much. Starting off with things I did really love about this movie is David Cornsweet as Superman. This is going to be the absolute best part of this movie, is his iteration of Superman. I've mentioned before on the channel, I never grew up as a big Superman fan. I found the character kind of boring. And if I'm being perfectly honest with you, it wasn't really until Henry Cavill's Superman that I was like, oh dude, Superman's kind of cool. But what James Gunn and David Cornsweet has done with this iteration of Superman, it takes all those boring tropes that he has of being a good Boy Scout, wanting to protect people, having this really corny vibe where he'll literally say things like golly or what the hey dude, actually come off charming, appealing, and so dang admirable. This is a Superman I want to see so much more of, because I was just grinning so hard at everything he was doing, from the speeches he would give to his fight scenes to the morals he has in this film. Like, yes, this is what Superman should be on screen. And jumping off that point, the way James Gunn directs this movie and with how dynamic a lot of those action scenes are, it's sometimes really mesmerizing to look at. I know there's been a lot of hot takes about the actual cinematography and look at the film. I do think overall it's a very beautiful but exciting movie to look at. Not gonna lie, yes, there are a handful of shots that still end up looking a little wonky to me, but for the most part, the way James Gunn was having the camera move in the action scenes during a lot of the big spectacle stuff, it gave a lot of flavor and personality to this Superman and the DCU as a whole. And part of that flavor and personality is not being embarrassed or afraid to embrace its comic book side. I know we hear this a lot with a bunch of other movies where it's like, oh, this movie's like a comic book brought to life, or this is very comic booky. That type of statement has never been more true than in James Gunn's Superman movie. This is literally comic book storytelling, structure, events, characters, situations, all brought to life in a way I don't really think we've seen before. It fully leans into the fantastical, crazy, wacky side of comic books. And as awesome as that is, I do wonder how some people are going to take that, because it is not going to hold your hand. It is not going to be forgiving to casual viewers or people who aren't that well versed into just comic books. When it comes to some of the supporting cast members of this movie, I was really fond of Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane. She definitely has great chemistry with David Cornsweet and their scenes together, whether it's her and Clark Kent or her and Superman. That energy is so well captured, but not even just in their love dynamic, but the way the characters are portrayed. We've seen little glimpses of that conversation where Lois Lane is interviewing Superman. That full scene that starts off pretty playful but then quickly turns into a defense mode situation is played so wonderfully, and it lets you know James Gunn does understand these characters. And it's that type of understanding of them that made someone like Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor really stand out. Because aside from David Cornsweet, he is also the thing I really loved about this film. This man is the king of haters, and the way Nicholas Holt is able to come off with these really crazy facial expressions, whether it's subtle or very exaggerated, oh man, this is a great Lex Luthor. And it was so refreshing in a comic book movie to lean into that I'm evil because I'm just evil persona without it coming off cliche or one-dimensional. I think people are even going to get a huge kick out of the Justice Gang because I thought they were very well used in the movie, and I don't think they at all take away from Superman's story. I know that's something a lot of people were afraid of in this movie, that those supporting characters would make it feel like Superman and Friends, when no, I still argue this is a Superman movie and these characters only help support Superman's story and arc. But as far as individual moments, they all get a time to shine. Mr. Terrific, a character I just only got introduced to when he was announced for this movie. Oh, dude, what a badass. Eddie Gathegi gets a really cool scene that I think is most reminiscent to a lot of needle drop James Gunn moments. There's not a lot of needle drops in this movie. It's mainly carried by its score, but a moment like you would find in Guardians of the Galaxy where music would drop and you'd get a cool action scene to pair along with it, that's Mr. Terrific's scene, and it's terrific.
Say that again?
Guy Gardner, I'm not gonna lie, I never got the hype with Guy Gardner. I'm a big Green Lantern fan, and I cannot wait for the Green Lanterns to get that redemption arc and people can stop seeing them as a joke just because of the Ryan Reynolds movie, and I didn't think Guy Gardner was the right introduction. Oh, but there's gonna be a lot of people coming out saying, I love Guy Gardner, and I want more of him. Not only is Nathan Fillion actually pretty funny in the role, and although he has that ridiculous bowl cut, when he is using his Green Lantern powers and unique abilities in situations fighting bad guys, it just makes you want to see more Green Lantern stuff, and that's all I could ask for, because I was happy just seeing that ring conjure up all sorts of crazy stuff. Isabella Merced, although great, I think does get the short end of the stick in terms of the Justice Gang. She gets her moments too, but she feels a little less included than the rest of the group. I'm also pretty pleased with the amount of Crypto. I was so afraid they were going to over-rely on Crypto's inclusion in the movie. Like, I was happy to have him there, but I didn't want it to be an easy, oh, look at the cute furry creature, let me just love on you character in the movie. He's used the right amount in terms of humor, cuteness, and awesome action scenes. Another subtle standout that I kind of wish we had more time with, Ma and Pa Kent. Oh, dude, I love these parents for Superman. So adorable, sweet, and I think they really serve as the heart of this movie and actually even got me emotional. But it does also make for some bold choices, and really that's the most applause I can give, is a lot of bold choices made in this movie. I don't think many people can go in and say, oh, that was a pretty safe generic Superman. Oh man, this is a very wacky, unique take on the character. Although it's trying to emulate those early Christopher Reeve vibes, and David Cornsweet does do that as Clark and Superman, everything else around them is so wildly different to what we expected. Even from what we were seeing from the trailers, it still felt so unexpected when actually seeing it all in context. There's honestly so much more other little things I want to gush and praise on the movie, like with Metamorpho, the really great use of the score by John Murphy and Dave Fleming. It's not just with Superman, but Lex Luthor's score I thought was great, and it does help elevate a lot of the moments, especially in those action scenes. But I kind of really want to get onto some of the things that I was mixed and negative on. So yes, I do think this is a great Superman movie, and looking at it overall, it worked for me and left me happy. But man, there are a couple of things in there that I'm just like, oh, no, that was a choice. That's interesting. For one, getting back to that comic booky vibe, that is a positive for me, but to a lot of people out there, that much embracing of the comic book world will be a bit of a turnoff to them. From the moment James Gunn's Superman starts, you are dead smack in the middle of the DCU. This movie almost feels like it's the sequel to David Cornsweet's Superman, and this could have been his second or third movie. The opening has a really great introduction into the overall DCU and how long David Cornsweet's Superman has been around in Metropolis and all that, but it literally puts you in so much of the middle of the action and hits the ground running that you do feel not lost, but you feel like, oh my God, slow down. So much is happening right now. And that leads me into saying something that we feared did end up becoming true, and that the movie is overstuffed. It is a little bloated, not because there's too many characters. No, like I said, I still stand by the Justice Gang having the right amount of screen time, having a good part in the movie that didn't overshadow Superman. But even putting them aside, it's the amount of ideas and things that are thrown into this Superman movie that make it feel like a really crammed film. That's where it felt like a comic book come to life, where you're jumping panel to panel with, oh, kaiju monster introduced, intergalactic being here, a secret Lex Luthor prison, bunch of other side characters like Engineer, Metamorpho, a little green alien named Baby Joey. Like, it's a lot to throw at you. And I think for like comic book fans, they'll be able to accept it and understand, because it's like, this is kind of like what a comic book would be, just throwing out everything as long as it fits into the theme and what's happening in the story. But I think to a casual viewer that doesn't know any of these characters, doesn't know any of this, is gonna feel very like, wait, what? What's happening? What? How? Okay. And sometimes watching the movie, it feels like you'd benefit from doing some homework beforehand watching the movie, learning a little bit of what Guy Gardner's like, what Mr. Terrific is like, Metamorpho the Engineer, which I did do before the movie because I make videos on this stuff for y'all. So that built-in knowledge only helped me enjoy and understand the crazy things that were happening. But it can feel a lot sometimes, and with the movie trying to pack in so much, a lot of really strong moments, critical points, or emotional beats don't get that time to breathe. There's a real heartfelt and sweet moment between Clark and his parents, and it feels like that is kind of the focal point of the whole movie, but with how much else is going on, it feels like a minor subplot. Same thing with like Ultraman. You know, we've all been wondering like, hey, who's behind that mask? What's going on there? And the movie doesn't really treat that like the biggest mystery. And even when it does get revealed who is behind the mask, it's kind of explained away in almost a sentence or two, and the movie has to keep going because so much else is going on. And that's where it does kind of lead me into say, I would argue this could possibly be James Gunn's messiest script. Every other line of dialogue in this movie is a lore or exposition dump to fill you into the DCU. And for a handful of those lines, I don't mind, because it's necessary information just to get us into the context and to help out those casuals who aren't all into the comic book life. But it does come off sometimes a little clunky or forced. Honestly, it's gonna be a movie that doesn't work for everybody. I don't think it's gonna be a super divisive movie where like you either love it or you hate it. We know there's a group of people out there that have already made up their minds on this movie and we're gonna hate it no matter what happens in it. But there's also gonna be a decent amount of people that walk out, I think, slightly disappointed or just so unexpected with how the movie turned out, they're underwhelmed. And a lot of fans who are gonna walk out loving or embracing this movie thinking it was awesome are gonna be quick to be like, you're just a cultist and that's why you don't like it, when no, I think I could honestly see why some people, it just wouldn't work for them, and that's okay. It's a lot to take in, and I kind of wish James Gunn didn't feel the need to throw so much into the movie. Because one of the things I complained about with the DCEU back in the day is how quickly they rushed into building their cinematic universe, putting the Justice League together, having Doomsday, do all these storylines all in one movie. It's not that James Gunn is rushing towards a Justice League movie, but he's definitely building a lot in one movie, when I feel like removing a subplot or two could have helped with a lot of the things in this movie. But even with those nitpicks and things that I am mixed, and there are even other parts that I'll have to say for spoilers that I'm kind of iffy on, the highs of this movie, how great David Cornsweet was, those awesome action scenes, and even just that comic booky feel of this DCU, it makes me excited to see what's next, or to see more of this universe grow out and what it could look like 5-10 years down the line. And to answer your question, yeah, I liked it enough to see it again, which I'm actually doing tonight at the fan screenings that Amazon Prime is holding. And I am going to be curious whether those issues only grow for me the second time around, or I just enjoy the ride and love it even more than I already do. So when it comes to James Gunn Superman movie, I'm going to give action 4 stars. I think there's some really great dynamic action scenes. I love James Gunn's camera work in those moments, and for the most part, I think the CGI does look great, but there are a couple of wonky shots that do kind of stand out. Comedy in the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. It does have that James Gunn signature humor. It's not as crude and gross. It definitely is with Guy Gardner, but that's how he is as a character. But I don't think it's an overbearing amount of humor, and I'll also say there were a couple of jokes that just didn't end up working for me. Drama in the film, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I really wanted more of that emotional punch and more of a focused narrative. What this really is a ton of different subplots just stuffed into one film, all kind of having an overarching theme. It really does feel the most like a cartoon episode come to life, for better and worse, but I still enjoyed where the story ended up, and by the time the credits rolled, I was smiling and close to tears. But I do think it could have benefited from just not having so many ideas thrown into it. Suspense the movie, I'm gonna give it 3 stars. This is a hopeful, bright Superman. It's kind of predictable where some things will go, but because of how zany and wacky some stuff gets, there is a little uncertainty sometimes seen to scene. When it comes to the 3 C's, I think cinephiles are going to be the ones that most enjoy James Gunn's Superman movie. I think casuals will actually be a little indifferent with the movie, and also with how quickly it moves introducing you to what's already going on in this DCU. It's a lot. Like, if this movie was an episode of a TV series, it wouldn't be the pilot. This would be like episode 5 of season 10. While critics are also going to be really harsh on the pacing and just the over-bloatedness of this movie. Still though, with all that said, Superman left me very happy and hopeful with what's next. I really think David Cornsweet's Superman is going to be a lot of people's new Superman, and so for me, I think it's a movie not just worth watching in theaters, but also worth adding to your personal collection.
That's a keeper. Yes.
I really cannot wait to talk spoilers, guys. There is 2 post-credit scenes, and if I'm going to be completely honest with you, you can stay for the very first one that happens in the mid-credit. I don't think it's necessary to stay for the last one. We're going to talk so much more in spoilers, though, whenever the movie releases, and there is a lot to talk about. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films, or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.